There is a killer hiding in the dust. It does not growl, it does not sting, it does not announce itself. It floats, invisible, weightless, carried on a breeze so ordinary you would never think twice about breathing it in. And yet, within days of entering your lungs, it begins to dismantle your body from the inside in one of the most terrifying progressions modern medicine has ever documented. This is the story of Hantavirus. And before this is over, you will understand exactly why doctors who have dedicated their careers to infectious disease still pause when this word comes up. Let us start at the very beginning, at the moment of exposure, because that is where everything begins, and that is where most people make their first and most critical mistake, not knowing it even happened. Hantavirus lives in rodents, deer mice, white-footed mice, cotton rats, rice rats. Depending on where you are in the world, the carrier changes, but the principle stays the same. The virus does not make the rodent sick. The animal simply carries it, sheds it constantly through its saliva, urine, and droppings, and goes about its life completely unaware that it is hosting one of the most dangerous pathogens on the continent. When those droppings dry out, in an old cabin, a garage, a barn, a basement, a hiking trail, the viral particles become airborne, and when a human being walks into that space and takes a breath, the particles travel directly into the deepest part of the lungs. This is called aerosolized transmission. You do not need to touch the mouse. You do not need to be bitten. You just need to breathe. That single breath can be enough. Now the virus is inside you, and for the next several days, it does something deeply unsettling. Absolutely nothing you can feel. This incubation period, typically between 1 and 5 weeks, though it can stretch even further, is the virus quietly establishing itself. It has entered your body and it is now seeking out a very specific type of cell, not just any cell. Hantavirus has a precise target, the cells lining your blood vessels. These cells are called endothelial cells, and they are, quite literally, the walls that hold your circulatory system together. The virus binds to receptors on these cells, proteins known as integrins, and it begins to replicate. It spreads through your lymph nodes. It enters your bloodstream. It reaches your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, and still you feel nothing unusual. Then, one morning, you wake up with what feels like the flu. This is the prodromal phase, and it is the most dangerous illusion the virus creates. Fever, deep muscle aches, fatigue so heavy it feels like your bones have been replaced with wet sand. Sometimes headache, sometimes chills, sometimes nausea and vomiting. You think, I caught something. I need rest. I will feel better in a few days. This is exactly what the virus needs you to think. Because while you are resting, convinced you have a common illness, your immune system has recognized the infection and is now launching a response. Specifically, it is sending immune cells called CD8+ T cells to attack the virus. And this is where Hantavirus reveals its most sinister trick. The virus has essentially weaponized your own immune system against you. As your T cells pour into the infected endothelial cells and destroy them, they create gaps, tiny holes in the walls of your blood vessels. Normally, these walls are tight and controlled. They regulate what passes through. But now, those walls are breaking down, and something catastrophic begins to happen. Fluid starts to leak, not blood. Fluid, the plasma, the liquid component of your blood, begins seeping through the damaged vessel walls and flooding the surrounding tissue. And because Hantavirus has a particular affinity for the blood vessels of the lungs, the fluid goes there first. This condition is called pulmonary edema. Your lungs, which are supposed to be filled with air, begin filling with fluid instead. And this transition from the flu-like prodromal phase to what doctors call the cardiopulmonary phase can happen in as little as 4 to 24 hours. This is the moment when patients go from feeling bad to fighting for their lives. The symptoms arrive rapidly: coughing, shortness of breath that gets worse with every passing hour, a feeling that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong, not just in your chest, but in your entire body. The oxygen levels in your blood begin to fall. The heart, struggling to pump blood through increasingly compromised lungs, starts to fail under the pressure. Blood pressure drops, pulse rate spikes. Doctors call this Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, and once it reaches this stage, the mortality rate is staggering. Depending on the specific strain and how quickly treatment is administered, between 30 and 40% of patients who develop HPS do not survive. Let that number settle for a moment. There is no antiviral drug specifically approved to treat it. There is no vaccine available to the general public. When a patient arrives at the hospital in the cardiopulmonary phase, the medical team's primary tool is supportive care. Oxygen, ventilators, careful fluid management, and time. Doctors are essentially buying the patient's immune system enough time to win a war it started and partially lost. In the most severe cases, when conventional ventilation is not enough, patients are placed on a machine called an ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. This device removes blood from the body, oxygenates it externally, and pumps it back in, bypassing the lungs entirely. It is, in essence, a mechanical substitute for a pair of organs that the virus has temporarily turned against you. The patients who survive this phase, and many do, describe the experience in terms that are difficult to forget. The inability to breathe is unlike any other medical emergency. It is not a sharp pain. It is not a sudden event. It is a slow, relentless suffocation, the feeling of drowning in your own body, of fighting for every breath, and losing a little more ground with each one. Those who make it through the critical window begin to recover, and the recovery can be surprisingly swift. The viral load begins to drop. The immune system, having fought back the infection, starts to repair the damaged endothelial cells. The fluid in the lungs is gradually reabsorbed. Oxygen levels climb back toward normal. Most survivors walk out of the hospital with lungs that function normally within weeks or months. But the experience leaves a mark. Fatigue that lingers for months. Difficulty concentrating. In some cases, documented neurological effects. Because while the lungs bear the brunt of the damage, hantavirus can also cross the blood-brain barrier in certain strains, causing inflammation that affects memory, mood, and cognition. And here is the part that makes all of this even more profound. This virus is not rare. It is not confined to exotic locations on the other side of the world. Hantavirus and its various strains are present across North America, South America, Europe, and Asia. The Sin Nombre virus, the strain responsible for the 1993 outbreak that first brought HPS to wide medical attention, exists throughout the western United States. The Andes virus in South America is the only known strain capable of human-to-human transmission, meaning it does not even require a rodent intermediary. Every year, hundreds of cases are documented. Many more likely go undetected in their early stages, mistaken for influenza, never confirmed. And the most chilling part of all of this, the people who get infected are almost never doing anything reckless. They are cleaning out a storage shed. They are spending a weekend in a mountain cabin. They are setting up a campsite. They are doing exactly what ordinary people do on ordinary days. And they breathe in one molecule of dried rodent excretion that happen to carry a virus, and their bodies become a battlefield. The lesson hantavirus teaches us is not to live in fear of the outdoors. It is something more precise than that. If you are entering a space where rodents may have lived, any enclosed area that has been closed up, especially in rural settings, ventilate before you enter. Wear an N95 respirator, not a surgical mask, not a cloth covering. Do not sweep or vacuum dry droppings, which launches particles into the air. Wet them down first with a bleach solution, then wipe them up with gloves and dispose of everything carefully. These are not complicated precautions. They are the difference between a routine cleaning job and a medical emergency. The human body is extraordinary in its resilience. It fights off infections, heals damage, adapts to extraordinary stress. But it was never designed to go to war with a virus that turns the immune system's own soldiers against the very walls they are supposed to defend. That is what Hantavirus does, not from the outside, but from within, using your own biology as its weapon. The dust settled, you breathed, and somewhere deep inside the lining of your lungs, something that was never supposed to be there found exactly the home it was looking for. This is not a story that ends in fear. It ends in knowledge, because knowledge, in the case of Hantavirus, is the only protection that actually works.